How's it going, David from Comic Book Investments? So I'm here with a special guest again, my dad. And a lot has changed since he's been on here last time, and quite a good surprise I think you guys will like. So, hello, Dad.
Hello.
And if you guys don't know, his name's Mark Wilson. And for all of you who haven't seen the first podcast I did with him, he was pretty much a comic book dealer since the 80s, 70s?
Yeah, I was part-time in the 70s and then 80s full-time up till recently.
Okay, so he's been doing it pretty much all through my existence for the most part. So this has been a hot topic that we've talked about before, recession. Now, you've been through the 80s recession, the 90s dot-com recession as a comic book dealer, right? And were you a comic book dealer during the 2008 crash as well?
Oh, yeah.
So we got three. One of them really big, the '08 one. So are comics recession-proof?
Yes.
They're recession-proof. Now, would you like to elaborate more on that? Is like every comic you buy recession-proof?
No, as I said to you earlier, you have to use your brain. Nothing's idiot-proof. You know, it could be comics, could be anything else. You have to do the homework and know what you're buying and why you're buying it. If during a recession you like a particular character and you buy that character, enjoy the character, enjoy the book. You're not always there to make a profit. You might like the story, you might like the artist, and that's wonderful. And later on, as you grow older, you look back and have fond memories. But if you're looking to purely invest, as it seems that most people are doing today, then you have to be careful. You can't buy something which there's an incredible amount of and in high grade, and there's going to be more coming out in high grade, and then 5 years later somehow assume that you're going to make a huge profit. That doesn't work.
So basic laws of supply and demand.
Yeah.
So let's give some examples. X-Men 1 from 1963. Is that a good investable book that you think, in your previous experience, would be recession-proof?
That'll never go down.
Never go down. Well, I mean, it has
the world could
stuff.
end and we could blow up, but no, that's never going to go down.
So X-Men 1, good investment. Now let's go to Bronze Age. X-Men 130, First Dazzler. Is that something that's an investable book?
Yeah, most certainly. However, there's far more of a supply of that particular book. And because, bags came into existence approximately 1970 with Robert Bell.
You're talking about bags and backboards.
Yeah, before that, no one, we had to custom bag our books if we wanted to do that. Most people just kept them in stacks. And so you created a lot of damage that way. But once the bags came out, in conjunction with the distribution improved, that era, Bronze Age, there's quite a bit of high grade. Now, there's one factor that hurts the Bronze Age, and that is page quality. They used cheaper materials that came down from, they were 10 cents in the early 60s, 12 cents for most of the 60s, and right into the Bronze Age era, we started hitting 15 cents right before the Bronze Age era started. And then they went up to 20 and then 25.
They were trying to 35.
They were trying to cut costs, and things are becoming far more expensive. It's hard to comprehend that they come out with a 64-page comic book with a very thick, slick cover, all in color for a dime, 10 cents, which meant that the
you're talking about like a Superman annual or something like
no,
that?
I'm talking back in the 1940s. It's hard for us to wrap our minds around that they could pay all the artists and all the writers and on 6 cents, because that's what they had to let them go for. And that didn't include the printing costs. I mean, they made almost nothing.
And Golden Age covers they had a different printing style,
Yeah.
right? They usually had a piece of paper or something printed on. Like, that's why the covers of a Golden Age is really thick, because it's multiple layered.
Well, they use much more superior materials, superior inks, far more superior product. And then they had to cut costs all through the 50s. That's where the 50s The books, not only were the 50s, they printed less of them because comics were losing their appeal. The war really brought it up. World War II. It's sad but true. And then after that, it was crime. And they went into the good girl art quite a bit. And then they went into science fiction and horror. And a lot of people were up in arms about that. Moms and dads didn't want their kids reading comic books. And through that time, print runs dropped, especially with the superheroes. A lot of the horror, actually, like and Mad Magazine, they started cornering the market, so to speak, but the materials were very cheap. And they had to make them ever cheaper in order to survive. But during the Bronze Age, they really cheaped out with the paper. So that's why you'll see a lot of Bronze Age books with, cream off-white pages. At this era, if you go 20, 30 years into the future, you're going to have a lot more with cream off-white pages, unless they take care of them now.
I also noticed a lot of Bronze Age surprisingly have a lot of like cover tanning and cover
Oh,
brown.
yeah.
Like a lot more common than I would say.
Because there's no difference between a Bronze Age cover and a Bronze Age page. It's just that they have an additive, a clay additive on top of the paper. It's nothing but pulp paper. That's why it tans so easily, and your fingerprint smudge it, and that'll tan up.
Yeah.
And it's terrible. And if you get it wet, it's terrible. Where Golden Age were really strong, really durable.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. So if X-Men 30 could be, but probably more akin.
130?
Yeah, 130. What about a modern book? Just a random X-Men off the shelf.
Well, it's like anything else in the collectibles field, whether it be coins or stamps or you name it, pottery. One of the reasons things are so expensive on the high end, we call it the mint level, near mint, is simply because there's fewer that exist at that level. That was the case for comics that were printed on the newsstands. The 1940s, for instance, they were mostly on, they didn't have metal, created racks that they distributed all across the United States. Not in the beginning. Later on, they did that. In the very early years, you'd find them at tobacco stands, magazine stands, and they were, loaded up with pulps and other magazines and Farmer's Almanac, whatever. They kind of loaded them up. Now the problem was that you had to see the front. Books sell by their spines in bookstores, but comic books sell by the front. And so the title, the logo, was very, very vital. Because that's what would show out of a magazine rack or a tobacco stand.
Because it was covered, but the title.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
And kids would always pull them down. It was typical. You'd see kids in there on the floor reading. It used to make people upset. But that's how you flip through. And also, when they finally organized it better and came out with racks, like Marvel came out with their racks and Dell Comics came out with their racks, DC, etc., they started putting... all Spider-Man 41s were loaded in this space, and all, Fantastic Four number 55s were loaded in this particular space. But before that, you'd have 2 or 3 issues, and then 2 or 3 other issues, and then 2 or 3 other issues. So every time you flip through, you might find another issue, and that's what's caused a lot of the damage, was people were searching for what was there. And then the racks were a big problem because you could see most of the whole comic in a wire rack, however, of the front one. However, same problem. The rack would come up about 2/3 the height of the comic, and you had bend marks on them constantly. So Silver Age is really hard to get a near mint. From the 1960s, early 60s through the mid 60s, really hard. As you push forward in time, and comic book shops became a staple in our economy. More and more open, they became profitable, and then they had distribution that went directly to the comic book shop.
Correct.
To avoid, the rack problem.
That was at least late 70s?
Yeah, I don't know the time anymore, but...
Well, I know, what was it? Dazzler #1 was direct only, and
Yeah.
that was 1980, I believe.
And as you move forward in the 80s, there was more direct editions than there was the newsstand variants, because the newsstand started going away. What kid could come up with $1.25? Whereas, 10, 15, 25 cents, yeah, but $1.25? So it became a collector only, which affected the market in a couple ways. Number one was, in the olden days, you would have a 500,000 print run, okay? And they'd all sell out, As we move forward in time, and it was not the kids at the racks anymore, it was the collectors, the comic collectors at the comic shops. That was the source of revenue for most of the publishers. And so, Steve Jeppe got into it and was distributing.
Is that Diamond, right?
Yeah. And so the comic book shops have all these mint books. I mean, just right out of the box, never messed with or rifled with, never bent, just mint. So you're determining, okay, and everyone now looks through the boxes or tries to find the best near mint copy, as opposed to the old days. We weren't like that. But even nowadays, when they come out of the box, it's mostly 9.6s and 9.8s.
Literally, this is what people do. They get in a run of whatever it is. They get their 15, 20, whatever they get for the store. They'll grab a stack of 5 to 10, send it straight to CGC, right out of the box. They'll all come back, pretty much 9.8s.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's like modern books, everything's going to be like, you have to get at least a 9.8. If you try to invest in like a 9.4, it's like, no one cares. Like, you have to get the top.
The only way that'll change, and it has changed quite a bit actually, is more collectors come in. The collector base has not doubled, not tripled, not quadrupled. It's gone up 20, 30 times from what it was.
That's probably investors as well in that
collector. Yeah, it's crazy. So it's for us. Here's a book. A really common book that I thought would go nowhere. Like you said, the Eternals? Okay. Hulk 181 was so common. It was like unbelievable. And here's what I mean by common, is that if you go to conventions in the old days, or if you went to comic book shops, everyone had one. Some people had them in, quite a bit of them. And the problem is that there wasn't that many collectors. I mean, there was 40, 50,000, but there wasn't, 5 million. So Hulk and Wolverine became very popular, and that's the first appearance of Wolverine, a very major character. And so even though you'll see on the CGC and CBS census combined 5,000 copies graded, we know about ghosts. We talk about ghosts, right?
Yeah.
We know there's not really 5,000 there, but there could be 1,000. But anyhow, you'd think, okay, there's so many graded, they just can't sell. In the old days, yeah, I'd agree with you. Today, no. You could put all 4,000 out in 1 week, and they'd all sell.
Maybe not for top dollar.
Yeah, some of them would, but none of them would go really cheap. That's like X-Men, Giant Size X-Men one. That was a common book.
So I don't know if you know this, but I've been stockpiling Hulk 181s and Giant Size X-Men ones. I probably have 35 Hulk 181s and probably 25 Giant Size. I've been buying them for years and never selling them. Just stockpiling them.
And you're creating a vacuum.
Well, I just feel like that book, it just sold, a 9.8 sold for $95,000. It's going to be the first Bronze Age to crack. Well, I mean, it did crack 100,000 when a 9.9 sold, but for a 9.8, so that's insane. So what you're telling me is Eternals 1 is not a good investable comic book.
No, and that's not what I'm saying. The movie didn't do well.
No.
Okay. And just like the Inhumans situation, Fantastic Four 45, there was all this anticipation, and then all of a sudden, that book went like a rocket and came down. And that's the problem when you look at it purely as an investment. People have a tendency then not to buy it. It's like you'll have incredible pressure on a book, like Eternals. And everybody wants a 9.4, 9.6, 9.8 because the movie's coming out. You understand, the movie's coming out. And I can sit in my seat and I can hold my book and watch the movie at the same time. No, the whole idea is you want to buy them and resell them, and everybody wants to make money, but no one cares about the item itself.
Yeah.
So the movie just didn't do well. And so that created a situation where people, the movie's already out. There's not going to be an Eternals 2.
The movie is garbage. It's dropped by like 80, 90%.
So what do you do? It's like we know there's going to be an Avengers 2 when the first Avengers came out.
Yeah.
And everybody went after Avengers, and they skyrocketed, especially number 1. And the movies were not just good, not just great. They were
best ever.
They were incredible movies.
Yeah, pretty much the best.
The Marvel movies were incredible. Captain America. I'm shocked that Captain America didn't do better, because that movie was phenomenal.
Captain America 1?
The first Captain America.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of boring. I liked Captain America 2, The Winter Soldier. I thought that was one of the best Marvel movies they've come out with.
They were fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised he didn't do better as a character as far as value of comic books.
Didn't his Captain America 1 just break $1 million?
Well, I'm not speaking of Cap 1. I'm speaking of Cap 100,
Cap 100.
the reboot.
That's still a very pricey book.
But not compared to what I thought it could be.
But the thing is, it's not a big. I mean, it's a key, but it's not Avengers 4, his first Silver Age. It's not. What was he in? Tales of Suspense 58. That's when he came back, right? Was it 58 or 59? 58. And
59
was
as a constant.
Yeah. They battled first, kind of like Hulk and Giant Man.
58 is an incredible issue.
And then, so he had all that huge run of Tales of Suspense before he got 100. So it's kind of later down the line in terms.
Right.
So, but to segue, got some interesting news here. As you guys know, I did an interview with Steve Borak. Now, he has since left CBCS, but do you know who kind of took over his place? My dad now works for CBCS Comics as of a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah. I didn't take over his job.
I know you didn't take over. He was the president. But I mean, you lose one, you gain one type of thing.
I'm a peon.
Yeah.
I'm a little peon at the very, 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 very bottom.
So what do you do for CBCS?
I dump garbage.
He works at the dumping the garbage. He's the janitor.
I'm the janitor. I dump all the garbage for all the people. And maybe someday they'll let me grade a book.
You don't sharpen their pencils?
No.
So what do you do there? What is your
grade books?
So you're a grader.
You have to learn. Grading is not difficult. What's difficult is to grade a way a company wants you to grade and write the notes the way a company wants you to write the notes. So everything is always consistent. Consistency is critical. And it's funny. You always hear people say, 3 people look at a book before a grade is assigned. And what did you find out with CGC in regards to that?
Oh, that's not true at all. They don't do that at all. Because I had a Superman Man of Steel 18 triple cover, 3 covers. I get it back, not a single thing mentioned about it. Look on the notes. You think it'd be in the notes. A grader would write, triple cover. Right. Maybe the inputter just forgot to put input. Nothing. Not a single thing. And I'm like, how could 3 people look at this and no one writes down triple cover? Let me grade all the covers. Not a single thing. I sent it back. They fixed it, whatever. And then I sold it instantly. But yeah, so yeah, definitely not the case.
Well, at CBCS, I was shocked to find out that this is a minimum of 3 people look at it. Average is 4.
For a higher end book.
No.
Oh, I meant like higher, like a modern book is probably like 3, and then...
It depends. It really depends. It has nothing to do with money either. You think it would have to do with money. It has nothing to do with money or the value of the comic book. But you'll have 3 to 4 people looking at every single book. They're really sticklers about notes. Notes in the sense of not only what defects are on the book, but notes in the sense of what characters appear and timeline and so forth. Anything that goes on the case label has to be accurate, constantly being checked. And consequently, as it's being checked by 3 or 4 people, 3 or 4 people have to grade the book. So it's like very, very...
So you're one of those 3 or 4 people that grade?
Yeah.
Now, are you... how many books would you say that you have to grade in a given day or a given week? Like how many can you get through?
They have a system that's really interesting. Where you sit, there's a metal plate. No, there's a metal plate. And you sit down, And it doesn't matter if you wear rubber shoes or not. But if you're not grading fast enough, it gives you a jolt.
So you grade like what? Probably like 500 a week or so?
No, starting out, I'm just starting out. So their expectations are more on accuracy and consistency than numbers. Numbers will always come because, like I said, grading is the easiest part of the process. The most difficult part is the information and writing the notes in a way that is even, that is consistent. So not just, like I said, about the history of the book, who's in the book, what characters, etc., but on top of that, how you write your notes, like quarter-inch tear at bottom left, blah, 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 how you put that in. They're very, very persnickety about doing that correctly. So you don't just get a grade, you get it's got to be accurate all the way through. And every page has to be counted, because you have no idea how many books are missing pages, missing panels. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, I know. I go through books all the time. It's like missing. The worst is like when it's like you're flipping through and someone cut out like Captain America's head out of one panel that you normally don't see. Like you open the book and you're like, oh, okay, page, nothing. And it's like, oh, something this big is like cut out. So have you graded anything interesting, or did you mostly stick to modern books?
Well, right now in our market, the biggest supply is modern books. There's a huge push. Yeah, I would say the same thing with the cards. There's a huge push for a lot of these new cards because they know that if a player becomes hot, that card is worth a lot of money. So people are sending in cards and comics in droves by the thousands, tens of thousands to get them graded. So there's a huge, backlog on the moderns. And frankly, that's where a lot of the business is. Now, on the other books, they're far more laborious, take far more time.
Yeah, because a new book, it's like, is this a 9.8 or not? That's basically your question.
But you still have to grade it. Even if it's a pass or fail, you have to grade it.
Have you ever given a 9.9 to something?
No, not yet.
What is their criteria for a 9.9?
It's very strict. When you see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of 9.8s, you get a good feel what a 9.8 is. Okay, it's pretty simple. And a 9.6 looks almost stark in comparison. But a 9.9 is a different animal because of the top and bottom spine. Or like a lot of new books are made, a comic is paper. And when it is bent at the spine, not bent like a spine roll, or
just full
crease. You're creating a mechanical hinge where a mechanical hinge isn't supposed to be. Now, when you have a white spine and you have good paper quality, it's perfect.
Yeah.
A lot of the new books, though, have an incredibly high gloss and very thicker. Have you noticed they're very thick?
And it cracks.
Oh, it cracks all the way up and down. So those cracks are manufactured. It's in the folding and stapling process, and that's not considered a defect.
Yeah.
However, a 9.9 goes beyond that. It can't have those defects. And that tiny little bindery scuff or chip or tear, really tiny at the top and bottom, you'll get a whole case of whatever, Captain Underwear #1, all right? You pull them all out, and every single one has got that little tiny
binding tear type thing, yeah.
Tear or scuff at the very top or bottom, but the thing looks dead mint. It can never be more than a 9.8. So 9.9s are a freak. That's why there's so few. Yeah. It's like they're a freak. In this time, in Silver Age, before pressing, to get a 9.4 book was really, really hard before pressing. And it was a gorgeous book. But today, to get a 9.9 from a distributor's box is also a freak of nature.
So where do you hope this job takes you? Are you hoping to climb up
infinity and beyond?
Are you hoping to climb up the corporate ladder and soon be the president of CBCS?
No, I have no aspirations that way whatsoever. Just do a good job. That's it.
Let's see. Are you allowed to? How does the process work with your own comics?
I cannot sell CBCS comics.
So you can't sell CBCS. So it's basically conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Could you sell CGC comics?
Yeah, sure.
But you don't want to. That would probably just be pointless, right? Because you work there, it probably look frowned upon or something.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So now you guys know how to get a 9.9 and a 10.0. Just send the comic book to my dad, Mark Wilson, and say, David said to give this a 9.9 or a 10.0, and you will automatically get one. Everyone gets one. Everyone who's watched one gets one free 9.9 and one free 10.0. That's how it works. Just say you know me, use my name, and as a subscriber, you will get a free 9.9 and a 10.0.
I wouldn't say that. That's.
I'm joking.
Okay, make it clear you're joking.
I'm joking.
Okay.
They know I'm joking.
Because you can go a month and never see one.
I never get 9. I have one CBCS 9.9, but I bought it like that. And in my entire career of sending to CGC, I have gotten like 3 or 4. I just recently got one, but it was the thicker books that are new, and they're like indestructible.
And here's the problem with the nuances between a 9.8 and 9.9. You may have a 9.9. You send it to CGC, and you may very well have a 9.9, but they graded a 9.8. And how much money do you spend to get it there, to get it cased, to get it back, and then you're like, this is a 9.9.
Let me redo it. Resend it in.
And it might get a 9.8 and a 9.8.
That's why that was my always theory is I'm like, there's no old books being made again. There's no old new books. So it's in their best interest to give you a bad grade as many times as possible, because I take a book, send it in, I didn't get the grade right, send it in, I didn't get the grade, okay, forget it. I sell it. Then the next person looks at, this is a better grade than sends it, I didn't get it. Like that's, I don't know.
You think they keep track of who owns what?
No, I don't think they keep track.
No.
I think if they're on the cusp, if they think it's like a 9.4 or 9.2, I think they will more side with the 9.2 every single time because it's in their best interest. Like if it's like, oh, this is like a 9.35, right? So it's closer to the 9.4. They'll be like, let's give it the 9.2.
Well, where I work, it's you have to understand, you have to be fair to both sides of the issue. You can't be so tight that it's wrong, and you can't be so loose that it's wrong. You have to be accurate. So we get a lot of 9.3 books, that just are stunning.
So what do you give it?
9.2, you have to give it a 9.2. You get a lot of 9.5 books that are just the most gorgeous 9.4.
What about a 9.35?
It's still going to be a 9.2.
So you round down.
You have to, because it's not a legitimate 9.4. You can't do that.
What if it's 9.39999? Still round down?
That's not even sensible. Doesn't work that way.
Okay, so so let's compare today's comic world versus the old comic world. How is comic collecting different from the 80s compared to today?
In many ways. Today it's an antiseptic world. We do most of our buying and selling online.
Yeah, so you don't have that customer interaction.
Right. I mean, there's conventions, but they become so gigantic, and a lot of people can't get to them, and it's difficult. And especially the last 2 years through COVID, it's changed our world. So it was different in the old days in the sense that you kind of knew everybody. It was a smaller circle of people you dealt with.
Was there any like now there's a ton of people they're collectors, but they're mostly investors. Was there back in the 80s and 90s, were there like the investors in the comic? So there's people like, comics are cool, but I'm buying this strictly because I'm gonna flip it in 5 to 10 years, or I think it's gonna go up.
There's always been investors. I mean, come on, the Overstreet Price Guide came out once a year, and your book would go up 7%.
Maybe.
Yeah. No, but
like, is there investors how they're today? Like, there's groups that literally. Unnamed people that just put it in a safe somewhere and no one ever sees it.
There were investors, but the investors were different in those days. I know so many that were investors, but you know what? They really were collectors.
Collectors that
Yeah, because they would be the first to admit. They would say, "I know I can make more money if I did this with my money, but I really love this."
yeah.
So what it was the investors were people who loved the comics. I mean, you don't go out and spend, 1985. You don't spend $5,000 on a comic just simply because you want to read it. You're spending it because you know that it's going to be worth money in the future.
Or you buy because you want it and you like, I like having, an action number one. Like you're not going to read it obviously, but buy.
Right. You're collecting your childhood, maybe you're collecting, but you're still a collector. You're a collector because what person would stupidly put $5,000 into a comic book, never wanting the money back?
Yeah, I guess everyone kind of like.
Everyone banks on the fact that when I'm old, maybe there'll be my kid's college education. That was the big thing in the old days. It's going to be my kid's college education, or it's going to pay for whatever when I'm gone. No one thought they'd make $1 million.
I read a newspaper article where it was in, I don't know what, the Washington Journal or whatever that's called. They had an announcement that Batman #1 sold for $55,000 at Christie's or Sotheby's auction or something. It was a big deal. $55,000 for like, I think it was like a top grade. And this was in 95 or something. Now it's like, no, that book would be worth millions.
Do you have a fan in here?
No, I don't.
It's like freaking hot. Ladies and gentlemen, it is hot in here. Let's put it 95.
Well, that's why I have shorts on and I don't have shoes.
I just got off a plane. And he doesn't pay me a dime. I'm here to see my other son's wedding. It's so hot. I'm dripping sweat.
Oh, we're almost done. I have a few more questions left. Okay. Do you miss going to Comic Cons? Because I know you did it for Heritage. That was the most recent one you did.
I do not miss the new Comic Cons.
Do you miss Comic Cons that are strictly comics, no everything else?
Yeah.
You might miss those?
I enjoyed those, yeah. The old days were... I can't relate to you how much fun it was to walk around the room and see
things you've never seen before
on the wall, and Batman ones and Superman ones, and it was always out there. It was never a matter of could you get it. It was a matter of could you afford it. It was always up. It was always out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was the only way to see these books. Now everyone can see them online.
It's like timelies. Collecting timelies today is very, very difficult. Timely comics?
Yeah.
Okay. In the old days, it wasn't difficult. It was a matter of grade. There was one guy I knew that wanted to collect VF and better, which was like unheard of, but he stubbornly stuck to it for 20 years. But if you wanted to collect timelies in VG and up, you can get them all.
Yeah, I mean, the timelies are really, really expensive. Is it because they have lower print runs than DCs?
There's a couple things working there. They did have lower print runs, unquestionably. A lot of their characters never were the marquee characters, like the Black Marvel and a lot of the Angel. There's a lot of characters, the Tough Kids Squad. There's a lot of things they came up with, a lot of characters that never really made it big, and so they were always like B characters, but they were a timely and not a Fawcett. And
Who's Green Llama?
Mac Rayboy's Green Llama. Let me see. He is what the heck is his title?
Is it
I forgot.
Is it Quality?
No.
That's national.
We don't have a guide in front of us, so
yeah. I forget what he is. But I don't even know what his powers were, but they're probably terrible. Green Llama is the one I always go to. I was like, when I'm like not everything is going to be.
You got a guide somewhere on here.
Yeah, not everything is going to be valuable. It has to span the test of time, like Superman. He's popular back in the 40s and he's popular today, right? Then you have people like the Green Llama that fall by the wayside because no one cares.
But if you have them in nice shape, they're still valuable.
Yeah, because it's old and still collectible.
But if you were to collect Green Llama back in 1980, let's say, and you got a full run of Green Llama, and you look at it today, by today's standards, they went from, back in 1980s, probably $30 or $40 pop, and now they're $300 or $400 a pop. So you've made money.
Yeah.
But if you would have bought
An actual
Spider-Man 1 through 10
Yeah.
and paid $30 or $40 a pop, and they're in high grade, today they're worth a fortune.
Yeah. I saw someone had a post on Instagram, and it was an old ad, and I think it was from the 80s, and it was in like a catalog or something. They're selling the original art to Spider-Man 39. Covers and pages. They also had all the pages to 51.
Where'd you see this?
Someone posted it on social media. It was they took a picture of an old ad.
Yeah.
And you guess how much they were going for? With Spider-Man on the panel, $100. With Spider-Man not on the panel, $50 for a Ramita.
I remember I was at the Texas Toy.
I'm like, that. If you just had that one book, that ad right there, you would be a multi-millionaire.
Okay, I'm at the Texas Toy Show, and there's these guys that are longtime collectors. They were in their 70s back in mid to late 80s. And they come in with a bunch of original artwork. And in those days, it was different. You didn't bring the best stuff into the convention and put it on a table. You kept it in your hotel room. Most of the deals were done in the hotel that the convention was in. And so you go up and you had to stand in line. And when your turn came up, you got to go in, they closed the door behind you, and you got to take your pick of anything in the room. Generally, the people in front of you, if they had enough money, which most of us didn't, the good stuff would be gone. So I walk into this room, and I'm looking for cartoon posters, and they knew that, so there was a bunch of cartoon posters. They said, "Hey, you interested in original art?" And I'm like, big stupid dummy. So they show me this Journey into Mystery 84, the second Thor. Intro to...
That would have been Jack Kirby, right?
Oh, yeah. Intro to Jane Foster.
Well, they have the backstory.
The entire book of art.
And cover?
No cover. But every interior page. And I'm looking at this. The splash front panel was a huge image of Thor. And I'm thinking, this might be worth money someday. So I ended up buying it. I bought the whole story. And,
how much?
It was $3,000 for everything.
$3,000.
And then they show me under the bed, they pull out the stack of artwork. And the stack was, you know how original art pages are very thin.
Yeah.
It was probably a 4-inch stack, okay? And they plop it up on the bed. $400 a piece. You can have first choice. Kirby, Ditko, Kirby. You know what was in there?
What?
A lot of the amazing adult fantasy stories for Steve Ditko, and a lot of the monster, it was all monster, all sci-fi. It was all the pre-hero Marvel. And there was one story from Fantasy 15, not the Spider-Man story. We're talking about the back end stories. And all the glob and the gome and all these different, huge Kirby splash pages. $400 a piece. And he goes, "I'll make a deal if you buy them all." And in pops Richie Halegua, long-time art dealer. He cracked the door open and was listening. And he opens the door and he says, "Mark, they're not worth anything. I'd pass on that if I were you." I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, I've been doing art for 20 years." He goes, "These will go nowhere. They're not superheroes." I said, so I thought, okay, he saved me some money. I was going to buy them all. So I walk in the room and I look. Literally 30 minutes later, he was carrying this big stack with him. He bought them all. So I learned a hard lesson. But how did we get off on that subject?
Oh, I don't have no idea what we're talking about. I think we're talking about fun stories.
Oh, you know what, though? They had the Tales of Suspense, 39, and they offered me first. The entire splash pages and everything, Tales of Suspense, first Iron Man, right? Don Hecht. Oh, I like Jack Kirby. So I passed on it for $10,000. $10,000. I could have the entire comic book.
What would that be worth today? Millions. You saw that splash page of Marvel Superhero Secret Wars. Mike Zeck black Spider-Man suit.
Oh, yeah.
Sold for $3.3 or $4 million.
I don't know what it'd be worth today. I look back at all the stuff that I had passed on. It was crazy. I remember, can I say one more story?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm at the San Diego Comic Convention. It's in the early 90s. And Jack Kirby, his art was tied up. And his wife, Roz, they wanted to make money for Rosalind. And so they had this guy represent them, and they got the okay from Stan Lee, and Stan Lee gave them some of the artwork. And so they're setting up, and you know how you get into convention if you're a dealer before everybody else? Mm-hmm. So I would always leave my stuff box, and I'd walk around the room, and I'd come up to this corner, and I go, what the heck? Are they real? You know, splash pages. You know, in the old Fantastic Fours, I loved them because it'd say chapter 1, chapter 2. You'd have like 3 or 4 splash pages in the entire comic, which was wonderful for a kid. And so Fantastic Four 5, every splash page. Fantastic Four 6, every splash page. Fantastic Four 7, 8, and 9, every splash page, all sitting there. And I said, how much you want for these? $6,000. I said, for everything? He goes, no, $6,000 a piece. And I went, what? You got to understand, that was way, way, way above market value. And
Market value when, though? Market value now it's way below.
oh my gosh, I have no idea what those would be worth today. I really wrestled with buying the Dr. Doom story.
Oh, God, that would have been... Wait, $6,000 per story or per splash?
Per page.
Per page.
Yeah. And that was the thing. I mean, to buy all 4 of them, it's $24,000. Way back then, that was a lot of money.
Well, you would have...
You know, but...
They'd be worth millions now.
They'd be worth millions, yeah.
Easily.
Wow, it's amazing. And it was the twice up, large art. Mm-hmm. And so well done. So, you see it in the comic book, and it's one thing. And then you see it, the actual artwork, and you go, wow, this guy was really, really good.
Oh.
Okay, go on.
We're almost towards the end, but I have a couple fun stories. Tell us about Matthew McNutt. I just find it interesting. Here's a guy. He was the son of your friend,
yeah.
Dan McNutt, and then he was going to come work for you to save up money for college.
Right, he was going to work this summer to save money for college. Good guy.
Was it only summer? It felt longer.
Well, when you're young, everything's a long time.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, so it was just one summer, and I gave him the upper room in this outside building I have. It was real nice, and he spent every dollar that he made on comic books, Dr. Pepper, and candy. He would work and
watch his Star Trek,
and then go upstairs to his room and read his comic books. And he made a wall out of the Dr. Pepper cans.
Yeah.
All the way across the room. This wall. If you touch it, it all fall down like dominoes. He very carefully, placed them, so I never bugged him about that. But it was funny. His dad, he goes, what? His dad just got like, what do you spend all the money on Dr. Pepper candy and comics? He'd always buy a big bag of candy and sit on his bed and read comics.
And drink his Dr. Pepper and watch Star Trek.
Yeah.
What year was this?
Oh, gosh. 90s, sometime in the late 90s.
Late 90s? No.
Wait, what time did I move from Castle Rock? Oh, that was 2010. So maybe it was, it was 90s.
Yeah, I was trying to think when in the 90s. Was it during 93? I think that's when the death of Superman was. I don't remember.
It was after that, no.
It was after that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting. Couldn't have been much too longer after that.
Yeah, it was after that, though.
Man. Tell me about me working for you as a kid. Because I was the only one that everyone kind of worked when we had to ship out the catalogs.
Yeah.
But was I pretty much the only one that actually worked for you?
You liked it. You enjoyed it. You liked doing different things.
I remember starting out bagging and boarding. That was my first. I got a penny per bag and board, but then I ended up getting too fast, and my dad was like, well, you're making more than minimum wage at this point, so he cut me down to hourly. I do remember that.
Yeah.
And then you taught me how to grade, and then I remember you would always give me like, at the time you called them junk modern comic books, but I
Yeah.
remember doing a run of the 80s Sandman, Swamp Thing, stuff like that.
All in mint condition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you put it in that big cement room.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember doing the barn stuff
Yeah.
with you. But yeah, good times. And I saved up and bought, with my money, I bought comics instead.
Yeah, you did. You invested in comics. Going back to the recession, you need to talk about that. Because there's a lot of, we're going through a difficult time right now. And I think people are going to start noticing it financially, the market, life.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I survived the '08 crash. So did everyone else that's watching it for the most part, unless you're 7 years old or something like that.
How old were you in '08?
I started the business in '09.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That was our first year.
Wow.
So I didn't come down. Interesting enough, here's a bunch of fun facts you probably didn't know. The peak of the market was, and I'm talking stock market. The peak of the stock market was October 2007. Mm-hmm. It took exactly a year and a half to the very bottom. Now, if you had a blue chip stock, which is companies that are well known, well established, considered good investable stocks, let's say Amazon, Apple, Ford, things like that. Do you know how long from the bottom? It was a year and a half till they hit the bottom, which was March of 2009. Yeah, 2009. Do you know how long it took those same blue chip stocks to reach all-time highs, higher than their all-time highs in 2007? 6 months.
Wow.
Yep. So it only took 6 months to all-time highs, 2007 October. Took a year and a half to get bottom out. Only took 6 months to beat these all-time highs. The housing market was the first quarter of 2007, bottom out at the same time. But that took anywhere from 7 to 9 years, depending on the market you bought a house in. But housing is different because you live in that. You don't live in comics. But it only took 7 to 9 years for the housing market to return to all-time highs, national average. Comic books, because I did all through. Every year during the recession, key blue chip comics went up, like Fantasy 15, Hulk 181, New Mutants 98, first Deadpool, Action 1, Batman 1, stuff. All every year would break new records. All through the recession.
Today we're in a little bit different predicament, though. In older days, when there was a recession, people would then invest in comics because, unlike other, stocks, they didn't go down. That's true. They didn't, because it was based on a yearly guide, and so we didn't have those up and down movements. Today, because of you've got particular websites that cater to like CBCS, and will show how they sell every month. There's a far, more. There's more magnification on the market itself. Even weekly, you can watch Herod and some of the big auctions and how they're doing. You can watch eBay and see how it's doing. So we're not locked into a 1 year that went up.
Well, with the '08 crash, that's the only one I could have data on. The GPA existed before that. So that's how I got all this data, was from these sales analyst sites, because they had the data from those times and well beyond that. So, even back then in '08, we could watch markets, comics sell on a weekly basis.
But I think you can feel it's different today.
Well, because we got that massive influx of money, and interest rates are cheap, and everyone bought everything and skyrocketed the price, and now it's all coming down.
It's not like it's going up 5 or 10% anymore. Is people are expecting, profits of 50 to 100 to 200 to 300% on a book, and that can't sustain itself.
Yeah, it can't.
So you might get lucky, and you buy a book and you promote it well or whatever, or you get a good grade on it, and you double or triple your money, but the next person can't double or triple.
That brings me to a very interesting point. You probably don't even know what I'm about to say, and it's all going to be Greek to you. Do you know what an NFT is?
No.
Okay. So you know what cryptocurrency is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So an NFT, to put it in simplest terms, is there's a thing called VV, and they make NFTs of comic books. And this
VV. Okay, that explained it. Thanks.
Oh. And VV is they license out to Marvel comic books and things like that, and it's just a way for Marvel to make.
This is the simple.
I'll get there.
Okay.
It's a way for Marvel to make money off of Fantasy 15 again because they haven't produced one in forever, right? So what they do is a NFT is basically a limited run of something, but it's a digital form. So like a digital comic.
It's got to be an acronym for something.
Non-fungible token.
There we go. Non-fungible.
It's basically on the premise. You know what the metaverse is.
The metaverse.
Okay, have you know the Matrix?
Yeah.
That's basically a metaverse, right? That you live inside of a computer program type of thing.
Okay.
But we'd have a gateway. I don't know if you saw Ready Player One.
This is the simple explanation.
I'm
right?
trying to.
Okay.
But yeah. But anyways, just think of it as a digital comic book, but has a number assigned to it. So it's a limited run of a digital comic book. So you can read this digital comic book. You could take it into the metaverse, which right now the metaverse is simply put on some goggles and you can see it in your hands, right?
Okay.
But it's like a video game kind of thing. But people are under this think that we're all going to live in a video game eventually type of thing, or you can visit the video game. So you'll have a limited run of something. Like they only made 30,000 of a Fantasy 15. But if you somehow get lucky, you can get the 1 in 300 version where it's like the color's a little different. You can get the 1 in 1,000 version, which is like maybe the drawing's a little different.
But none of these are real.
They're all digital form, right? Marvel's licensed the rights to this company to make it. Now, but there is no grading because you can't ruin a digital form of anything. You can't scuff the edges. You can't tear it, stuff like that. Obviously, you have no idea what I'm talking about, but I was wondering what your thoughts, because get this, Dad, they sell the comic originally and you buy like a ticket and you might get one of the special ones type of thing. So they make like 30,000 of Fantasy 15, then they'll make a couple hundred of the special rares, a couple thousand of the medium rares. They'll sell them for like $6.99. People will sell them in the aftermarket for upwards of $300,000.
And where's the book?
You get a digital token that you can see in your digital space.
So you get a token.
It's like
you can go online.
But you can only go online through their app and see through their stuff.
Somebody paid $300,000.
I don't know.
Get a little token to go online, and if they go out of business, the book disappears.
Yes.
And you can't touch it.
You can't. The thing is, these people think that the digital should equal the physical, and I try to explain to them the physical had to go through multiple wars to get like a Marvel Comics #1, that one had to go through multiple wars, many generations of hands to get to the point where it is, and you might get a good, right? A 2.0 copy. But the digital form is always going to be a perfect 10.0. And it's not the same. And there's like 30,000 out there. And there's people trying to tout this as it's the equivalent. It is the same as the original, just in a digital world space. And I know it sounds insane, but this is the insane part to me is people will sell these for hundreds of thousands of dollars because they think it's equal to the original.
I remember when a guy gave a bid to cut the island of Manhattan at one end so it wouldn't sink into the sea.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Way back in the, I think it was the 1800s.
He wanted to cut the island.
They were going to, he got a bid to create a gigantic saw so we can cut the island of Manhattan at one end so it wouldn't sink into the sea.
Is that a true thing?
Yeah.
Are you being facetious?
No.
He actually got paid by the government?
And he absconded with the money.
Oh, no, really? What's the saying? I got a bridge to sell you.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a guy going around saying he owned the Brooklyn Bridge?
Yeah.
And he would sell it to people, multiple people, and they all thought they owned it?
No offense, but just if that company ever goes under, you just...
So what they're saying is it lives on the blockchain. But the thing is, the actual images, the actual JPEGs of the stuff have to live somewhere. So if you aren't hosting the site out of your own personal money, and that site goes out of business, and no one buys the site and buys the rights to all the data to store, then yeah, it's gone.
I suppose it's no different than owning shares in something you never see.
Yeah, but I always say, like, with physical comic books, it has more of an advantage than this digital comic book. Because a physical, you can take it wherever you want. You can sell it to whoever you want. This one, you have to sell through their marketplace. Everything has to do in their app. Like, you can put an offer on, like, eBay. Someone can buy it, but you have to
Right.
log into the app to actually do the exchange. Get this. You're going to laugh at this. So with this app, you buy gems because you can't actually buy in real currency in there.
You buy gems?
So because you download from an Apple store or a Google store, you can't actually use real dollars to buy this stuff because then that opens a whole bunch of legal stuff. So you take your $100 and you buy gems, which is in-game currency. You take those gems and then you can buy these collectibles.
Okay.
But you cannot change the gems into actual physical dollars ever again.
So you lost your money.
So you basically have a bunch of gems, and the app is promising that one day you'll be able to change your gems into real dollars. So it's a very interesting concept.
Yeah.
And people have spent a lot of money, and there's a lot of bots on there, and people were touting that they're growing in users by the millions, but turns out it was all fake. And it's a very interesting story. I'm gonna do a whole nother video on an update about it.
I'm totally lost.
This is a new thing. It's new as in like a year ago, but NFTs, the concept of NFTs, not just these comics, but NFTs in general have dropped by like 90 to 95% of value. You can turn anything into an NFT. It's called minting it. So Twitter, you know what Twitter is? So someone made a post, and it was the CEO of Twitter made a post, goes, "I'm on Twitter." That's all it was. And he put it online or whatever. It's just a post. Someone minted that, which made an NFT of it. They sold it for, I forget the number, like $4 million. Someone bought it for $4 million. And then they tried to sell it for 50, no takers. So then they turned around and put in an auction, and it got a bid of $200. In a year, lost $4 million to $200. Something like that.
Seriously. Well,
So this is where possibly the new collecting world is going. So I'm just saying, for you as a previous generation, how does that make you feel? Like this could be a thing? I don't think it will be, but
well, if you understand that no one's ever seen anything, you've never seen anything in your life.
wait, what?
You've never touched anything in your life. If you can comprehend that, if you really understand it, then this could be something.
But my speculation is it's going to go the way of the Beanie Babies.
Could be.
I think the whole market has crashed on NFTs in general. But this, to me, it's still massively.
I was being serious. You've never seen anything in your life.
I've seen lots of things.
Nothing.
Well, my brain interprets what I actually see. So technically,
Yeah, it's you're taught in school when you're young that your eyes are like a camera lens, and basically you're focusing on something that's out there, but that's not how it works at all.
I mean, technically, everyone perceives reality, I guess, differently then.
Yeah, your brain creates every second in full 3D motion. It's the greatest processor imaginable.
So you're saying we are in a simulation?
Well, in a way, but we literally create everything we see. You know, when you're looking out through your eyes and you see your nose and you see me, it's just photons bouncing off me, hits your eyes, and it turns into electrical signals, which then your brain creates the entire environment. Everything you see is created in your mind. Everything.
Yeah, pretty much. That's why people that are crazy, they just are detached from reality.
Doesn't take much either.
Nope. So I guess we'll leave it there.
Any other questions?
No, that was pretty much it. The last question I had was, did you ever think I would go into technically the family business? I have my own business. I didn't take over your business. I started my own thing.
Yeah, no, I knew you'd always be in comics. Out of all the children, yeah, I knew you would be.
Yeah.
Because you always collected. You were just a collector.
Yeah.
Ever since you were a little kid.
It's interesting. So I found that little box. I sold most of my collection to start this business, but I found a box of a few things.
Avengers 48.
Avengers 48.
You're getting old, David. You told me this before.
Oh, I told you I was?
Yes.
Dang. I came back a 9. I came back a 9.2 after all those years of having it.
Yeah.
I don't even know why I had it to begin with.
Because you forgot.
No, I mean, I obviously either you gave it to me or I worked for it and got it. Why would I get the Black Knight? I thought that cover was kind of cool, but
yeah,
it was a 9.2. Why would you give me a 9.2?
It's the way it worked out.
I also got, what was it, a 9.6 Hulk 181? I got that CGC when CGC was new.
I gave you that one, yeah.
Yeah, and I sold that to buy my car to a guy in Hawaii.
Now you wish you had it back now.
Well, I bought the car. I was able to get a job. From that, I was able to drive, which I moved down here.
Yeah, that's true.
So it was buying a car when you don't have one is an investment into yourself. That's how I look at it, anyways. So, but yeah, now.
Someday washing your car will be that.
Not gonna happen. Not until I get
You
my
should
Tesla.
show your car to all your viewers out there. I think that would really shock them.
I'm not a car person at all. But I am planning on getting a Cybertruck when they are released.
How long have you not washed your car?
Since I bought it, 6 years. I have never given it a bath.
No wash, no vacuum, nothing.
No, it's been vacuumed because Sarah vacuumed it because she had to use my car for work a couple times. So she vacuumed it.
It's unbelievable.
So it's been vacuumed in the inside, cleaning the inside a few times. I think the last time was maybe 6 months ago or a year ago. But no, I'm not a car person. The way I look at it is like this. I work from home. The only time I am in my car is to go to the gym every day. And that is a couple minutes away. So I am in my car less than 1% of my life. So I feel like I should only dictate less than 1% of my time towards the car and money spent into it.
Okay.
That's how I look at it. It's just a machine to get me to A to B.
You should talk more about the recession for a minute. Seriously, because there's a lot of people out there spending a lot of money with anticipation and hope that it will go up a lot.
Yeah, that was my point of NFTs and VV, because it's basically someone buys it for $6.99 when it's released. They'll turn around and sell it for like $500, and the next person around turns it around for like $1,000, and it goes up. And then people, like, instantly, like super fast. And so people are thinking, like, you do realize that there is a cap. Like, someone who's buying this stuff, they can't, like, I'm planning on doubling my money, but they can't.
Right.
Like, it gets too high where it's like, oh, I bought.
That happened with video games.
Oh, yeah. This went up way too, and the whole market, like, fell out. Well, that was because of.
It's just what it is you want to use the word greed, but it's just anticipation for, hitting the home run and making wealth. But proven collectibles are, it's not that the old days were better than these days. It has nothing to do with that. It's just like you said, they've existed for a long time. They set the standards and they've survived all these years. And consequently, they've incrementally went up over time. Like Amazing Fantasy 15, there was a time when that was a dead book because its value exceeded what people were willing to pay. And that's when it hit around $5,000, $6,000. And that happened again when it hit $25,000 to $30,000, which is a lot of money. But I remember when the first one at Sotheby's passed, it went $32,000, and the guy never paid for it because he got cold feet. So it never was a sale, even though it was recorded as a sale. Mm-hmm. And it took years for it to come out of that. And then now look at Amazing Fantasy 15. It's gone crazy. People are selling just pages of the book for
thousands.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Thousands of dollars. Yeah, they're, look at Turtles, #1.
Right.
I always told you to buy those books. He had at one point the turtle won 9-8, right, with the original check that Kevin Eastman's uncle gave Kevin Eastman to fund making Turtles #1.
Yeah.
I told him you should have kept it. And I also told you to buy those gobbledygooks for $2,000. $2,000. You know what they go for now?
Yeah.
$70,000, $80,000.
I'm a dinosaur and I missed all the good stuff. But anyway, in regards to recession and being recession-proof with your collection, you just have to educate yourself as to what is worth the money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not only is what do I don't mind keeping, but don't spend so much that it's going to kill you if you don't make a profit. That's really important. A lot of times people, they'll try and hit a home run on a book and they'll buy it off eBay or buy it from a dealer, and they'll spend a lot of money, but they can't afford to spend that money. They're spending the money with the anticipation that they can get more for it, and that you can't do that.
But this is what I'll say about comics versus traditional investing. And when I mean by traditional investing, I mean stocks. At any point, that company that you bought stock in could go to zero. And it could be not a penny stock. It could be like Enron, right? It could be like Lehman Brothers. Massive companies went to zero. Sears went to zero. And you have no control over that.
Right.
I would never in a million years think that a Fantasy 15 or Action 1 would ever go to zero. It will never go to zero. It could go to $1 or 10 cents. The only time it go to zero is the whole world's destroyed. But there will be never a time where an Action #1 goes for $0. But a stock could. It could bankrupt the company. It's worthless. Now it's not worth anything. So comics have something going
That's
for
an
it.
encouraging talk.
Well, it's facts.
But, you know, in regards to, you know, you have clientele out there, or viewers, whatever you want to call them, they have to do their homework. They have to find someone who will help them with understanding the market. I know that's what you do, and that's a good thing, is to educate people. But if you were to go out with the idea that you're going to buy certain, what I call blue chip books, you're never going to go wrong. You know, it doesn't matter. We've learned something in this past decade that didn't exist before, and that is that fairs and pours, pieces of comics even, they had very little, if any, value.
What about that #1 of an Action #1? You saw that they sold on Comic Connect? 7,000 or something?
Right, but in the old days, you go back, you know, there was a 40-year period of time where no one would want it.
Yeah, a piece of a one.
Yeah, or even a page from a book. I mean, if you're missing a page and you wanted to Frankenstein it to your book because you were a completist and you understood that it's never going to be worth a lot of money, okay, great. I knew guys like that. They would collect all the early books and they were all Frankenstein together. They enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And today, it paid off in a big way. But for a long time, it didn't. They never suspected their books would be worth what they are today. So if you go in with the idea that you want to make money over the long haul, that would be, you know, you'd have to do some homework and invest in things that have what I call intrinsic value, based on several criteria, and not just a movie. Mm-hmm. When you buy based on a movie or a potential movie, you're catching a wave like a surfer, and that wave, what does the wave always do?
Crashes.
It always comes down. And if you understand that concept, that if you're buying in a wave, unless the movie does great, and there's another movie and another movie and another movie, and keeps it going,
like a ripple effect.
yeah, then you're going to do much better. But otherwise, stick with things that have proven long-term, you know, financial gain.
I feel like a lot of new collectors or investors, their issue is like, oh, if I try to get what's hot and turns into something great, or if I try to buy something unknown and turns into great, the return is so much better. Compared to if you grab a Fantasy 15 and it goes from $50,000 to $55,000, it's like, I made 10% in a year or two. Like that's not good. A lot of people, I've had people ask me, it's like, oh, what can I buy for $5? I'm like, I don't know. Like I couldn't give you anything to like.
Well, you can go to a comic shop and buy something new, and you know.
But then it's a hope and a prayer if that character in that book turns out to be something great in 20 years.
Yeah, but for the most part, everything's done well in comics across the board. You remember all those books in the garage? I mean, in the barn I had?
All the 90s
You know,
stuff.
to me, they were just not worth anything. And, nowadays they're probably worth...
Yeah, was it X-Men #1 from 92, 93 or whatever, printed, most printed comic of all time, 8 million something. A 9/8 of that book's about $100.
Isn't that crazy? I never thought it'd do that.
$100 for, what was it, cover price $2.99 or something?
Yeah, so there's tremendous potential for the future of comic books. There's no question, because there's more people getting into it all the time. When I was younger, if you collected comic books, you were considered
A nerd.
a spaz, a nerd, an idiot, you name it. You were stupid. But I enjoyed reading the stories. I really enjoyed them. And today there's millions of people that really enjoy reading the stories, and they should collect with that in mind, first and foremost. But when you go beyond that and you want to invest, this market has still tremendous potential. I never saw that because I never knew what a movie can do. My exposure and understanding of movies didn't really manipulate or push a market in the old
So
days.
you're saying that the Fantastic Four movie from 1993,
had no
the
effect.
Roger Corman one, didn't do anything for
No, it didn't
Fantastic
do
Four?
anything.
Or what about the Captain America
No.
movie from the 90s?
Yeah, Jack Kirby walked out of that, didn't even want to see it.
Really?
Yeah, he thought it was terrible.
It is terrible.
Yeah, but we didn't realize, we didn't know about the internet
Yeah.
in conjunction with the movies and what that would do. The idea of you go on the internet and you see movie trailers, to you it's like normal, but to me it's like, wow, they never had that. You'd be in a movie theater and you watch a movie and they'd have a coming soon trailer every so often, and I enjoyed those. As a matter of fact, I used to own the Star Wars actual first, what'd you call it?
A reel?
Yeah, trailer. I bought it when Star Wars was coming out, and it hadn't yet come out. It was
Like the actual reels?
well, it was on the end of they'd show it at the end of a movie,
Yeah.
or the beginning of a movie. And I used to own that, and I lost it. Probably worth something today.
Yeah, I would say.
But anyhow, the point I'm trying to make in all this is that the movies are going to keep coming out because there's money to be made. And comic characters have been the go-to for a lot of producers. I mean, it's consistent. And now that we have these other types of venues that, it used to be just Netflix. Now they've got Paramount, you name it. They've got all kinds of these people.
HBO,
Yeah,
so.
joining and they're making their own movies.
Yeah.
So movies, the theater as it was dying because it's too expensive. They've now made the movies come out on your own home TV. And still, they're going to increase people's interest. Like, I'm sure Moon Knight sales have taken off.
Yeah. What it comes down to is a kid or an adult watches it, something they may have known about, didn't know about, now they like, and now they start searching for, they dive into it. Oh, Moon Knight, I love that show. That character's so cool, and they attach themselves. And if the kid gets older, they're like, oh, let me buy a Moon Knight comic. So they go for Moon Knight #1, and then they get more money to get Moon Knight, Werewolf by Night 32, and so on and so forth. So it just increases. You're just adding a new possible collector,
Right.
investor, dealer, whatever it is, into the market with these movies.
The difficulty is that it's a hard transition to make, and that is that when a child would go to the store with the parents, there was always a comic section. And the kids would always run over to the comic section, hit their knees, sit on the ground, fold their legs, whatever, and read comics. And they'd end up, after they ruined several, their parents might buy them one or two. Well, that for the most part doesn't exist anymore. It's really hard to buy comics. They're not all over the place. There are very few places that sell comics, and they're quite expensive.
Yeah.
So it's mostly adults.
$3.99, $4.99, $5.99.
Later teenagers and adults going to comic book stores that actually buy the comic books. So we've eliminated a lot of the kids, and it's when you're a child and a lot of them aren't fit for children, but when you're a child and you're reading about a character, it has a huge impact in your life.
Yeah.
And that aspect has been removed. We've taken that block away. So, a 5, 6, 7-year-old, like when I started collecting, I was about 9, and I loved them. I loved them. I never had the patience to read the little yellow boxes above the artwork. And but I learned how to read, basically reading comic books, and they became my passion, not for any desire to make money. I didn't even think about making money on them.
Yeah.
I just read them because I really enjoyed the stories. I mean, I grew up with Spider-Man, and it told me that the weak young kid, there's always a chance for him. And that good always triumphs over evil. If you look at the messages in those books, they're amazing. It teaches you about courage and heroism and not taking money for doing something good or right. It was.
He learned his lesson.
Yeah.
Uncle Ben died because of that.
You learned about economics, like I got to get a job because I don't want my Aunt May to go out and sell pencils or apples on the street corner.
Okay, so we'll leave it at that. I think we've been going on for like 2 hours or something like that.
He'll chop it all down.
Always great having you, Dad.
Okay.
Until next time, have a good day.
Goodbye, everyone.